and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a speed build for you. So I decided that I actually wanted to do kind of like an industrial apartment build, and it kind of becomes an eclectic industrial apartment, but anyways, you'll see what happens here in a little bit. But basically I just kind of gutted it, and I was trying to kind of keep it a little realistic in terms of not moving the elevator and not moving a lot like these big doors and windows and stuff. Well, spoiler, I end up moving the elevator, so I tried to keep some of the other stuff, more realistic, but I did move the elevator, so that kind of, doesn't really work. And I ended up starting out in this, it almost looks like this like sunroom kind of place, but I actually made this like the sitting like living room area. And so I just decided that I would start here. And this is when I actually ended up starting adding a lot of color and just some like weird, interesting pieces. So I started with that industrial couch, which actually came with the industrial loft kit. But then I ended up adding this really interesting like teal and yellow love seat. And then it just kind of went from there and became pretty colorful. I also do later on add a ton of plants in here. So I guess this is like an eclectic industrial plant loving sim home. And later on you'll kind of see, I kind of pictured the sim to be kind of artsy and enjoy painting and actually photography. So they actually have a full photography studio here. So I imagine this sim is just this like up and coming artist and is living their best life in the city at the top of this apartment building. And so this one actually, since it's at the top of the apartment building, I believe you can actually make this 2 stories, and it kind of functions as just a lot. It doesn't function as like a normal apartment in terms of the way it gets saved to the gallery and things like that. But anyways, I didn't end up adding a second story. Again, I was trying to make it kind of realistic, but like some of it's realistic and some of it really wasn't. It took me a minute to actually figure out what kind of curtains I wanted to use. I really wanted to use, you saw the curtains that were kind of pulled together in the middle. Those are actually from the wedding pack, and I really wanted to use them, but they just didn't quite fit, and the colors didn't quite fit. So, but I do use it later on in the bedroom. But I did feel like you needed some sort of curtains because I felt like in a room with just nothing but windows, it would get really hot. So again, not like super realistic. I feel like it'd be like a greenhouse almost, which is, I guess, what inspired me to put a bunch of plants in here. But that's the first plant here in the corner, and then we've got all the plant pieces on the wall. And then I don't know why, but the flowers that I put on the fireplace look really dark. I don't know if you can tell, and I don't know why they are so dark, which is actually why I ended up taking them out. Even after putting the ceiling light in there, they just didn't look quite right. So I do ended up replacing them. And I end up I'm using it in almost all my builds that basket of pillows and blankets, because I feel like it's just really realistic and cozy. And then I end up adding this like interesting like dog lamp thing. I don't know like what exactly it is, but I just thought, the colors match the love seat really well. And actually this apartment ends up being really large. So I feel like I kind of went overboard with how large the bedroom and everything is, because it ends up being just a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. But this could definitely be for a lot more Sims than just the 1 or 2 possibly for that bedroom. And I end up putting a bunch of plants actually over in this corner. And so I collect like all of these different pots that we have in the game. And then I end up layering in plants. As you can see, I started doing here. So I'm just pulling plants and putting them inside of those pots. So it just kind of looks like a new item in the game, but it's really not. So some of them require that they be sized up or down or moved, like raised technically, to be placed in there. And then that tiny little one on the ground, like it took me a minute to actually find a plant that went well in it, so like you can't really see the old pot, but that you can still see the little flowers coming out of it. And then I feel like adding that rug in the corner really like helped bring that corner to life. And then I end up, I think, adding a light to make sure there's enough light over there because it was a little bit dark. I had thought about putting a desk over there, but we end up putting a desk elsewhere in the apartment. And at this point, I'm starting like into the rest of the apartment, and I actually had a hard time deciding. Not too long, I decide that the elevator is going to have to be moved. So I tried to put in like a little foyer that was kind of originally there. So I put that in there. And then I was thinking about putting the bathroom behind the elevator, which actually may have been what was there originally. But it just didn't seem to work right, so I end up moving stuff around a little bit. So like I said, not totally realistic, but maybe if you did like an extreme home renovation. So this ends up being the huge bedroom, like I said, very large. And I wanted to have almost like on the back there, I'm messing around with some platforms. I actually don't usually use platforms, so forgive me for like taking a minute to figure out exactly what I want this to look like. And fun fact, when you put down the platforms, it deletes the walls, so then you've got to like put them back up. But I like the idea of having this platform behind the bed area where there would be a desk and all. And this is actually where I started adding stuff for a potential like artist. And so you'll see we'll put in some cabinets and a lot of pieces of art and an easel, things like that. And we put the mat on the floor that has like all the paint splatter on it. So thinking, you know, catching all of that so it's not getting all over the floor. But I did end up using like up there and in the living room area like a cement flooring because it felt like that maybe what was here in this apartment to begin with. And then I end up then changing the elevator so it's a different color, which again is not super realistic, but you know, that's all right. And I end up, if you saw, like kind of just putting walls there because I just blocked off that space because it started just getting really awkward. Originally I thought maybe having like a little nook for like the toilet or a shower, but then I don't know, that the bathroom ended up being so large that I didn't feel like I needed it. So back into the bedroom. I think we actually finished that up before we move into the bathroom. But I do end up swapping this bed out. This was the bed that came with Industrial Loft Kit, but it didn't have quite the right aesthetic once I started putting more stuff in the room. And of course I put the standing mirror that I put in all of my builds. And I did try to pull in a lot of the brick that was already there. And then we do actually use this wedding curtain that I really wanted to use earlier. So you can see I'm flipping through all of the different colors and I decided to pull in yellow. Since there was some yellow actually out in the living room, I thought it would show up again here in the bedroom. And then, like I said, these pieces of art that I brought in, I love this piece of art because it actually had like two different kind of versions, like it would be from the same artist or the same collection. So we put both of those on the wall and a bunch of cabinets, and then I end up putting an insane amount of clutter. I think I put stuff in like every one of the little cubbies, but I wanted it to be kind of cluttered and like really lived in and like somebody storing a lot of supplies there. So I ended up putting like a basket of like towels there. I figured for if you're painting, like cleaning up and things like that. And then I end up like that giant purple thing. I thought it'd be nice to have like a little crystal or something in the cabinets, but I did not realize that particular crystal was so big. So that may have been like out of debug or something that I'm not used to seeing necessarily. So anyways, I did end up putting like a rock and a crystal on the shelves over there and a couple of little like trinkets, and I end up putting the little cow plant terrarium looking thing up there and just a bunch of stuff, honestly, just like that's where they keep a lot of their stuff. And then we brought the mat in here, and then it'll be followed by then the easel. And I try to put like these canvases that you can like, there's a set by the window and there's a set off to the right, which you'll see better in a little bit. But I wanted to like that the person has like just canvases and pieces of art everywhere. I kind of like the idea that they did a lot of they painted a lot of like people, which I thought was cool, since that's what we have in the back there and all those canvases, which then is what actually got me thinking about photography, that maybe they also like to take portraits of people, possibly fashion, I'm not really sure, but kind of, you know, whatever, and tell your own story with your Sims. But that's kind of what I had in mind as I was building it. I don't know about you all, but like when I'm building, I just feel like the narrative starts coming to me in terms of like what I expect, and it helps me build actually. Like if I start thinking about who would live here and like the things they would have in their apartment and just the way they would live, it helps me construct a more cohesive build, if that makes sense. And then I end up, swapping that bed out there, and then we went with that like, I don't know, like clay peachy red tone. I'm not really sure what you would call it, but I thought that was nice to bring out, especially in this room. And then we put another fireplace in here, and then adding a bunch of art again. I liked the way actually above the fireplace we're going to add another piece of art there, and I thought it like cluttered really nicely together, and it just yeah, it went well together. And I did actually have this idea of putting the curtains over that painting right there, and again, like using people in the paintings, because I just felt like maybe that's what that sim did. It just kind of gave it like an extra, I don't know, flair or fanciness to it. Just like that's something, one of their favorites, with a nice light above it. And then I thought, nice bench right there just for a little bit of seating. And then they actually have their own personal door to the balcony, which it is a larger balcony. So this apartment has two that are separated, one on the left and one on the right, if we're looking at it right now. And I actually end up the one that's attached to this bedroom. There's another door. I think I actually might end up putting it in over in the more common space, but I end up dividing this balcony. So like this bedroom gets their own private space on the balcony. And then the one on the other side near the living room is more for entertaining. And then actually the one that's adjacent to what will be the photo studio is actually another photo space, which I thought would be kind of interesting. You take Sims out there, a change of lighting, a change of scenery. And then end up heading into the bathroom here. And this was such a large bathroom, especially for one, maybe two Sims that live here. But I end up actually pulling in, again, some more yellow and using this from the recent decor pack. And I thought it looked very nice in here. Again, pulling a lot of blues that were in the living room. And then I thought it would be nice to have like a separate bathtub and shower, and actually walling off a special place for this shower. Because actually I do this, I don't want to say a lot, but kind of frequently if I have this space, because I like the idea of having like a walk-in shower. And then again, pulling in that yellow there. And then putting some tile around, like they decided to kind of put in that walk-in shower. And then I started with this huge counter space, and like it was going to be for like two Sims, but it was just so big. It ended up being a lot. And so I do add here in a minute 2 mirrors and 2 sinks and all of that, but I do end up taking out half of it because it just felt like so much and excessive. But we end up actually putting laundry in the bathroom, which I thought was kind of a neat place to put it. But I also don't use laundry that often in my builds because I don't know if that's actually something a lot of people have. But also it tends to catch on fire and just cause havoc. And depending on how realistic you want your gameplay to be, it can be awesome, or it can just be kind of obnoxious to have to do laundry all the time. But I thought it actually fit really well in here, so I did add that in there. And I tried to do the trick that I've done in other builds where I put like a shelf above it, like it's got like a countertop, but because it was actually next to counters, it was too high, it just looked kind of weird, so I ended up abandoning that idea. And then I end up just putting some shelving above it and just a bunch of baskets. And again, this ends up being a little bit cluttered. It's not like terrible, but I just felt like that's what would be here for that sim. And then we end up putting, I don't think we put a ton on this wall, but yeah, actually that was the same thing we put out in the living room. But I just really like that piece. And then bringing in some more of those like orange reddish tones with the towels and the curtains. And I actually ended up using that lamp in the more main areas as well. And I do love these counters that we got with the Snowy Escape, I believe it was, because you actually can see and like put a bunch of clutter in it. So again, going with that clutter vibe, put a bunch of stuff in there, and then a bunch of stuff on the counter, and then just kind of leaving some clothes. And I end up putting like a clothes basket on top, so they're in the middle of doing laundry, but it looks like it's actually folded, so that's better than what I do. It takes me forever to put my laundry up once it's dried. I feel like I just go into the dryer and get stuff out, but it's one of my least favorite chores to do. But this is where we come in, and I thought it'd be nice to put a photo studio. And I've actually not played in the game much with photography, but we had these two different photography settings, and there was this other one that came, oh gosh, it was with a stuff pack. I forgot now, but it actually, like the background actually changes and like moves, so it'd be really cool, but I felt like it was a little bit big for this space. So anyways, I just opted for kind of the plain white background and then adding those markers on them. That's like where the Sims would stand, and then adding just a lot of lighting and a camera stand. And I thought this would be a workspace, like to have a desk and everything, but I actually ended up moving it over, and we have like a seating area. Like I made it like this really cool looking like studio, like you would bring people in and have like photo shoots here. And that was the door I was talking about. This part of the balcony will end up having some more photography space out there for kind of a change of scenery. And then this is about where I'm putting in the seating area here, and then trying to bring in those industrial chairs from that pack, and then this like kind of rustic looking cabinet right there. And we do end up, I pulled that rug out. We don't use that like dirty swatch on it, but sometimes when I see stuff that I know I want to use later, I pull it out so then I don't have to go find it later. And then again, bringing in like the photography with like a portrait of someone, or a silhouette, I guess technically would be a little more appropriate for that piece of artwork. And then just kind of finishing, I thought, you know, this may be an area where the Sims come and they get dressed, they get ready. Like, I don't know, maybe they do advertising photography and it just is typically a bunch of people. Not really sure. But just adding like a space for your Sims to come and like get dressed and things like that. I wish they actually did do that. That'd be kind of cool, but it's just more of like a setting the stage and vibe for the space. And I felt like, because I was really enjoying the space I was creating, that I actually wanted to wall it off and make it like a little studio. So kind of separate from the rest of the living space. Like you come in and you have what will be like the dining room and kitchen, and then you'd head into, like, if you were doing the photography, then you would go in there and that's like your professional space to do that. And then, so the last things we'll do would be the kitchen and the dining room, but we're finishing up in here just with some decor. So some more plants, not shocking. And then bringing in those orange tones in here as well. I think I used that hanging plant in several places around the apartment, but I really think it fills the space very nicely. And it just looks nice, the plant cascading down. And so I have also, you see me moving around that garage looking door, and that's something I believe the Sims can like paint on. So I thought that'd be a project, and I thought it was kind of interesting thing, but this industrial apartment that at one point it had this garage door on it. So we actually put it on the outside and we use it as another art area once we get out to the balcony. And then we put in this, actually what I feel like is a pretty nice kitchen space. Again, like this is so big just for 1 to 2 Sims, but again, maybe they're just living their best life and just like having people over and just, you know, just having fun. So I end up putting, and again, I don't actually use this tall wall height a lot of times. So it's definitely a challenge, and why I like using curtains in a lot of places, because it gives like decoration on the walls when you don't necessarily have to put, you know, pictures and things like that up. But anyways, we're just kind of moving along here in the kitchen, and I wanted to add some shelving because I didn't really have any matching cabinetry, but I also felt like having that cabinetry would be really heavy and didn't really go with the aesthetic. So I just used like these shelves that already had like plates and stuff on it, and then hanging some of these plants below it. And then like they, like, I don't know, I like the thought of it being like herbs and things like that. Like you could get it while you're cooking. Like they were just growing them in these little like orbs. I don't even know if that would really work, but I don't know. It's The Sims, so it doesn't really matter all that much. But, and of course I brought in the corkboard. I feel like I use it a lot, but we end up putting postcards on it a little bit later. And again, like as someone who does photography, I feel like that kind of makes sense. And who knows, maybe they travel for work, things like that. I really am building this like really like lavish and fancy lifestyle for the Sim that lives here, I feel like. But actually, I don't know if you've ever felt this way, like you build something and it makes you like want to play with that kind of Sim. And this apartment really makes me just want to create a Sim and play in it. Because it just feels like it would be a fun storyline to go through. And so just finishing up with a little bit of clutter here and there, again using the cabinetry that you can see into, and so like stacks of plates, a little knife block, all that kind of good stuff. I've got like some canisters I end up putting in there, and then just like one piece of art there. And then we just put a rug, because I just can't help myself. I feel like I always put a rug in the kitchen because I just think about like the water getting on the floor from the sink, so that would be there so like you don't slip. And then trying to figure out exactly what kind of dining room table I wanted, because I wanted something that was kind of rustic looking, kind of that eclectic, like refurbished kind of thing. But we ended up settling on this, which I ended up really liking, but it took me a little bit to get there. And then using those chairs from the paranormal pack, and then just putting just like a simple plant on there, I thought looked really nice, and just kind of building out this little like foyer entrance way, like if you have people over, you know, a place for them to put their umbrellas and their coats. or even their shoes over there by the door. And then I just kind of add some more plants and little knickknacks. And I think I put like a candle up there to kind of finish out that area and give it a little bit of light in that corner, which I thought was weird too. I think when you're using the tall wall heights, I feel like it's sometimes harder to get good lighting in all of the rooms. So anyways, we're headed outside, and this is the place where I said we actually split this balcony in half because, again, it was just really large, and since it was next to what might be your professional space and right next to your bedroom space, I thought it would be nice to actually have a divide there, but possibly like with the window to let more light through, but to have a plant there so that you could actually, like, someone could be hanging out on the balcony while you're over next door taking pictures and things like that. And I wanted this to be just like a nice, serene kind of hangout for the people that actually own the apartment. So I wanted like a little fountain and a yoga mat and a meditation. I don't know, is that a meditation stool? Anyways, just like somewhere that they can go and relax. And so we ended up putting like a bench out here and a light, and I might put a plant over there, and just like a nice chill place to be. And a bird feeder as well, because I think it'd be nice to have just like birds hang out on your balcony. Again, I'm biased. I do have birds for pets, so I always think that would be lovely. And then I was thinking about adding some lights out here as well, and they just weren't lining up quite right. I feel like I always want to use those, but they kind of don't meet up in the way I think they will, if that makes sense. And I tried to use that big setup again, but it just felt so huge on the balcony, so we just ended up using the smaller one again and bringing in some of those rope lights. Just feel like it would be a nice ambiance outside. So again, just kind of a change of scenery for taking pictures. And then outside over here, so outside of the living room, I thought this was more of your entertaining space. So we have like a little fire pit, we put in a grill, we actually put some planters out there. It makes sense, there's so many plants inside, why not have some planters outside in case the sim actually wants to plant their own stuff. And then just like a dining table, so the space outside was not super cluttered, but just kind of a nice entertaining space. So again, I guess this sim might just have a lot of people over. They have the space for it, so I guess that would kind of make sense. And then we actually end up putting on that brick right there, I end up putting these partitions and then putting a bunch of like ivy stuff in it to give it a really nice like green look, just kind of breaking up some of all of that like copper, wood, and like earthy tones. So just giving it, I guess green is an earthy tone, but I guess I'm thinking more like breaking up all the brown colors. So giving it some interest on that wall, but again, not something you'd have to take care of. And I honestly in real life don't know how you would take care of that kind of space, but it's a sim, so we don't have to worry about it. But we are getting close kind of to the end of the build. We're just finishing out these couple of spaces. But if you like the build, then feel free to download it off the Sims 4 gallery. My ID is down in the description. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. And I hope you have a really sweet day and enjoy the screenshots. Bye, everybody.